Hi there, and hope you're doing really, really well today. It is the first ever Insomnia Open class, which is live. It's a new form of open class for those of you who are maybe new to the channel. In the past, we used to ask members from the community here to send their questions via email, and then we would reply to those questions here on the channel. But that that made us become sort of really behind on answering questions, and so we're trying this new format now, and I see we have somebody watching here, so if you have a question, please ask it. That's the whole intent with this, is to ask questions, to answer questions that come in live. And as we are waiting for some questions here, I just want to first of all shout out to I think it was Anthony who said that it would be nice to call these classes open class instead of insomnia open class instead of open class, because it would be more clear what this is about. And Anthony also suggested that I set this as a what do you call it, a premiere, so that people can see ahead when this class is going to happen, and can be ready at 11 a.m. every Wednesday, which is when I intend to be here and ask and answer questions. So with that said, as we're waiting for some questions, if they come today, maybe not, we'll see. I see there are some more people here. If you have any question, please let me know. In the meantime, I thought I might tell you something that I've been pondering lately, and I actually am intending to write a newsletter about this. And so the other day I talked about how we can sleep but still be anxious. And this is the recent Insomnia Insight episode. And somebody in the comment section said something that really, really struck me. And I forget the name, but somebody said, sleep isn't the cure for insomnia. And basically just summarized what I wanted to say in my Insomnia Insight, but in a much nicer way. And okay, with a little caveat there is, like, the word cure, it can be a little tricky because it implies that there can be some disorder or condition like that, which there really isn't when it comes to insomnia. I look at insomnia as a fear of being awake, right? But still, that sentence, like, sleep isn't the cure for insomnia, it really struck me. And so I wanted to expand on that as we're waiting to see if we get any live questions here. But if we think about other things we can be afraid of, we can think of being afraid of a spider, for example. Like, that's pretty common, right? And when we're afraid of a spider, we can see, or when we're afraid of spiders, we can see that if we just happen not to encounter a spider for a long time. Oh, Annabella has a live question. I'm going to get to that in a second. I'm just going to finish this analogy. So we can see that if we're afraid of spiders and we just happen not to see a spider for 3 months, that hasn't necessarily changed anything. We can still be just as afraid of spiders, maybe even more scared. But anyway, we can see that the absence of spiders in this scenario will not lead us to become less afraid of spiders, right? And the same thing actually applies to sleep, as odd as it may sound. When we have been afraid of being awake and we for some reason happen to sleep, that doesn't necessarily change our emotions around that. So again, seeing this can help, because then we see that, sleep isn't what is going to take me away from insomnia. It's not that just if I just sleep, then my insomnia has ended. It's something else. It's about our emotions, our thoughts, and our beliefs, etc. And when we see things at that level, it automatically takes us away from, like, chasing sleep, because we think that's the cure, and it also leads us to, like, the inner work, the inner journey. So again, I want to thank whoever it was. I'm sorry I don't forget the name, but the person who said sleep isn't a cure for insomnia. I thought that was really, really insightful, and I'm going to add more teaching on that. All right, so now we have 2 questions here already. That's super nice. Thanks for being here. So Annabelle says, I have anxiety about going to sleep at night. Is this normal? Well, I want to say, my immediate thought when I hear this is, like, it depends on the context. And actually, Annabelle expands on this. I have a destructive relationship with sleep and always feel bad the next day about staying up too late, but it almost feels like an addiction. Absolutely. Okay. So If we go back to the first one, I have an anxiety about going to sleep at night. Is this normal? Well, I would say it's sort of like, the emotion anxiety is just like a message. It's just a message from the brain. It's just like when somebody's afraid of spiders and they see a spider and then they become afraid, then that's totally logical because they have an idea that spiders are dangerous. So the message fear is totally logical. It's totally normal given the circumstances. And the same thing when it comes to insomnia. uh, you know, if we think about what if I'm awake at night and that makes us anxious, well, that's totally logical. It's totally normal in the context of a brain that is afraid of not sleeping. So the anxiety is totally normal in that context. But what is causing it and what's more important is the underlying confusion, which is that being awake is dangerous. Just as the underlying confusion that all spiders are dangerous is the underlying confusion when it comes to like fear of spiders. So in that context, it's entirely normal. Now, Annabelle also shared, I have a destructive relationship with sleep and always feel bad the next day about staying up too late, but it almost feels like an addiction. This is quite common. And so when we are facing something we're afraid of, some type of threat, we are naturally taken into this like fight or flight mode. We either try to like defeat the thing we're afraid of or we try to avoid it. And what often happens, especially if there's been the struggle for a while, that every night has become this battle, right? Is that we become afraid of that. We become afraid of the battle. It's very unpleasant. We don't want to experience that. And one way we can try to avoid that is just to stay up really late. We kind of ignore our bed, ignore our bedroom. No, we keep ourselves busy. We do this and that. We just distract ourselves. But what we're really trying to do is trying to avoid the unpleasant battle, the struggle, the anxiety that comes with trying to sleep. So this sort of addiction that Annabelle describes here is quite common. And again, when we see that there's actually like when we get to the root of it and we can see that being awake is not dangerous, is not a threat, then things get much easier because then when the fear goes away, the struggle goes away, the battle goes away, and there's nothing really to avoid, and there's no reason there to like force ourselves to stay up late. So Annabelle, I hope that made sense. You feel free to comment again here or another time, but again, I hope that makes sense, and thanks for asking. Our second contributor today is Libby, who says tips for dealing with hyperarousal from fear of your kids waking up. Absolutely. Okay. I want to give everybody a tip here. Actually, I'm going to write something here. There's an episode here in the Talking Insomnia series, which is Talking Insomnia 37, where Joe is a guest. Okay, with Joe. We'll use this. Well, why can't I? Oh, there it is. Okay, I'll show this. Talking Insomnia 37 with Joe. So I'm going to briefly talk about Joe's story and then go back to your question, Libby. So Joe's story, I think I'm going to keep this here. Joe's story in Talking Insomnia number 37 is that he had no trouble sleeping whatsoever, and he lives in Malaysia or Indonesia. I'm sorry, I always confuse them, but I think he's in Malaysia. And the nearby mosque had installed these new speakers, so when the call goes out in the early morning, that became really loud, and that made him some trouble speaking. At the same time, his neighbors were loud around midnight, so he had kind of like loud sounds in the morning, loud sounds in the night, and that caused him to have some trouble speaking and sleeping. And then eventually, he became afraid of that. It became like it became more and more of a struggle. So what he did was he soundproofed his apartment. He talked to his neighbors, and what he found that when there was actually no sound bothering him, he slept no better. He slept no easier because now he was afraid of them starting to make noise again. He was like, what if the neighbors start making noise again? What if, so the point here is that even though the thing that initially disrupted his sleep isn't happening anymore, the fear of not sleeping, the fear of that potential disruptor causing him not to sleep again was still there. And Joe realized that I'm dealing with like an anxiety and I'm anxious. That's what this is really about. And that led him to like the inner work. He found Claire Week's teaching, and that really led him to leave the struggle. So going back to Libby here, what I think helps so much is to see that if a kid wakes us up, and we're up for a while, that in itself is actually totally normal and expected. Like all parents have that, right? And the kid and if we somehow may if somehow we could come up with a way to like make our kid not wake up, that actually isn't the solution, because the struggle is actually not that the kid wakes up, but we're afraid of what happens if the kid wakes us up. Again, we are afraid of being awake later on. So how do we deal with this hyperarousal from this fear? I think firstly it's just seeing that it is really the fear of being awake that is driving everything. And then how about the hyperarousal itself? How do we meet that? Well, hyperarousal, I think we meet the same way as we meet insomnia in general, which is if we try to like stop it, to get rid of it, to dampen it, to muzzle it, something like that, then it will actually, we will have more hyperarousal. I think of hyperarousal as one type of signal. There can be so many signals. Our brains just always communicates with the right signal, but hyperarousal is basically a signal that, stay alert. Something is about to happen. You should be ready for this, right? So if we think about if we have a message for a friend, like I say, I want to tell my friend that the car he's about to buy is not a good car, right? And he doesn't listen, I'm like, hey, I got this message for you. This is important. If he doesn't listen, I'm going to tell him again and again and again and again until he listens, right? Same thing with hyperarousal. Hyperarousal is kind of this message to us. And if we're like, I don't want to hear the message, I don't want to hear the message, then the brain is going to be like, you're not listening. I got to send you more hyperarousal, right? So it's like the key, I think, is to meet it with listening and awareness. So when we feel hyper aroused, we can just take note of it. We can say that, aha, brain, I think, yeah, I see what you're doing. You're trying to prepare me for something, but there's actually no real danger, but I see what you're doing. And sort of the more we're willing to experience the hyperarousal, the more we're willing to hear the message, the more it fades. So that, I think, hopefully can be helpful to you. Libby, thanks for asking. Now, next question we have is from, and Peace is here. Hi, Peace. What's up, Full? Okay, I'm sorry if I'm saying that incorrectly. But What's up, Full says, I'm currently stuck in a reoccurring cycle. I sleep okay for a few days until another speed bump occurs. Mostly happens when I actually don't think about sleep during the day. Progress is hard at the moment. Generally, my sleep has gotten better. I wake up often during the night, but mostly find back into sleep after some time, which was impossible before. It changed from onset to maintenance insomnia. All right. So the first thing I want to say here is that I'm super glad that things have gotten easier. And I think it can often really help to see why that happens. Because that's sort of, that shows us the way forward as well. If we imagine, I like to use this analogy of Kim. Kim is a fictional person who just is not sleeping, like losing a minute of sleep for Kim is just unthinkable. It's just not acceptable whatsoever. So Kim does everything in their power to make sure they don't lose 1 minute of sleep. How do you think Kim is going to sleep? Of course, Kim is going to struggle so much because we can't control this. And the more we try to control it, the more struggle we have. So when someone tells me, like What's Up Full here, that my sleep has gotten better, easier, to me, that only comes from one place. And by the way, I should have said this earlier, but to anyone here, like nothing here is a medical advice, just me sharing general thoughts about sleep, right? Going back to this, like to me, sleeping easier only comes from one place when we struggle with insomnia, and that is actually becoming more okay with what we fear, becoming more okay with being awake. And because when we see that, okay, things got easier for me because I tried less to sleep, then we've already experienced some magic there, and we can see that that leads us forward. So for example, we can see that if we go back to What's Upp's first message, I was stuck in a cycle. I sleep okay for a few days until another speed bump occurs. We can see that speed bumps are also, they're just another version of how we experience insomnia. And when we are in a speed bump, we can apply what has helped already, which is that when I'm awake, I struggle less against that. I find a way to make it okay to have a speed bump. And the more okay I am with those speed bumps, the less they happen. And I think what's a little bit different from someone like What's Helpful here than maybe somebody else is that you've already experienced some magic. You've already seen things getting better thanks to letting go. So I think that hopefully can happen. And progress is hard at the moment. Yeah, it's not easy. Oftentimes it's not easy. But another thing there is that when we think like this should be easy, then it becomes even harder because then there's this pressure on us. But when we think and see that this is hard, this is hard, it's going to be hard, then there's less pressure in a way because we don't think it's going to be easy. So I think that can also help. So yeah, Peace is here. Hello, Peace, and says I'm in a recovery journey since January. Really nice to hear that. And Peace says I always think if insomnia will ever be a forgotten topic in my life. Yeah, when I see this, I immediately think of an episode with Alina, and I can't remember which one it is, but if you just Google or search on YouTube for talking insomnia matrix, I think. Let's see this like that. Can I show that? Here, talking insomnia. If you just search for the talking insomnia matrix, you'll find it. I had a really nice conversation about Alina with Alina about this. So when we have not had any trouble sleeping, we're sort of in a land of ignorance, if we will. We don't know anything about sleep. We're not trying to sleep. We're not thinking about it. Sleep happens all by itself, right? And then once we've seen sort of how sleep works, and that the more we try, the less we sleep, and we're in the struggle, it can often seem like, oh, if I just forgot about all this, if I just forgot about all these nights of struggle, if I just forgot about all this, then I would have no insomnia. And the thing with that is, I believe that is true. If we in that movie, Men in Black, like if we had that, I think they call it a neuralizer or something like that. If you just like take a picture and then suddenly all our memories are gone, that is true. But that just isn't possible. That is not reality. So although we want to take like the green pill, like in the Matrix, going to the Matrix now, if we want to take the green pill and forget everything, that's not possible. We have no option but to take the red pill, which is we have to see things for what they are. We have to be willing to see like our thoughts and emotions and everything that's happened. And the thing is, like, will insomnia ever be a forgotten topic in your life once you've experienced it? Probably not. Those memories will be there, but the thing is that we probably don't want those memories necessarily to go away, because then we miss out on everything we learned about ourselves, about struggles similar to insomnia, right? And I think again that we cannot take away memories, but just like Alina, for example, in that story, we can remember it and not find it triggering. And we can look at it as something we learn from that moved us forward to a new reality, and something that led us to see that the teachings from the struggle helps in so many other areas of life. So again, if we're not trying to forget about it, but rather to learn from it and allow it to lead us in where we want to be in other aspects of our life, I think that could be really helpful. But again, I think it was more. It was. I think all this was better said in that Talking Insomnia episode with Alina. So definitely check that out. I want to share this one. What's up, Full said, thanks a lot. This truly helps. That means a lot. Means the world to me. So happy it did. Jake is here, longtime follower and supporter. Jake, nice to see you here. And Jake says, I like this new style of open class. Hope all's with you. It really is, and super glad you liked it. It means a lot. All right, we have Salam here, who says, what can I do when I start worrying about my sleep when I'm laying in bed and try watching TV or doing a small activity, but no sleep will come? Any tips? Absolutely. So I think there's something really, really helpful here. And we can learn, we can read in this message that Salam says, I've been laying in bed and tried watching TV or doing a small activity, but no sleep will come. Any tips? This is really helpful because here we can see that there was an intent behind watching TV here. The intent with watching TV or doing a small activity was to try to sleep. And of course, when you struggle to sleep, how can you not try to sleep? Yes, of course, this is the whole paradoxical nature of things. But when we see this, when we see that, aha, sleep is a passive process. Aha, when I'm not trying to sleep, it happens by itself. Aha, I was watching TV to try to make myself sleep. Aha, that's why I'm not sleeping. When we see this, then the answer sort of, it just comes to us by itself. We're like, when I watch TV just because I feel like it, now that will be really helpful. And I'd like to use this analogy of like when I lose my glasses. When you lose your glasses or something like that, people often say like when you don't look for your glasses, you'll find them. And and then and then you can imagine somebody saying like, "Hey, I stopped looking for my glasses 2 hours ago and I still can't find them." Well, we can see that that person made not looking for your glasses a way to look for those glasses, right? In a similar way, when clients tell me I'm watching Netflix but I don't sleep, then it's like we made befriending wakefulness into a sleep effort, something like that, which is like zero judgment there. Like it happens so naturally and so easily. But just seeing that, aha, I'm trying to sleep, and that's why I'm struggling. That I think can really really help. And then it doesn't mean that you have to change anything. You can still watch TV or do some small activity, but when we have this insight and we kind of know what our intent is, and we sort of drift away from the intent of trying to make ourselves sleep, then that's really really helpful. So Salam, I hope that made sense, and I think just seeing this can be so so helpful. All right, so we'll move forward here, and I saw a really nice comment here from Stephen, who said, "Thanks for this channel. It has helped immensely." So so glad to hear that. So so glad to hear that. Okay, let's do two more. Um, Michael says, "Is it possible to stuck with chronic insomnia for life? If so, can you live your life with it? God bless you." This is one of the most common worries that, like, will this be the rest of our life? Like, can this ever end? Can this cycle ever end? Something like that. And I want to say that um, the only, how should I put this? Like this. Insomnia is a cycle of resistance. If you imagine someone who had like this random sleepless night, maybe they were worried about something, but then they see like, wow, I shouldn't have slept. I shouldn't have not slept. This is not normal. I have to do something about this. And then that resistance towards not sleeping, trying to make oneself sleep, becomes a cycle that just keeps going and going. Insomnia is a cycle of resistance. And if someone just keeps trying to make themselves sleep, keeps trying to find the solution, keeps engaging in sleep efforts, then insomnia can go on. It can go on indefinitely, because the resistance is always there. But when that resistance is gone, then there's nothing there. The cycle has ended. So I think the only time somebody can have trouble sleeping for life, if you will, is if they try to make themselves sleep for life. Um, and if so, can you live your life with it? I want to say that the more, you know, the more we do that, I think, the more we see that yes, this wasn't easy. There's a struggle. I'm tired, etc. But I can still have a meaningful life. I can still do things that are meaningful to me and my community, things like that. That also helps, because that automatically diverts us from, again, trying to sleep. When we think like, I have to sleep so that I can live a meaningful life. I have to sleep so that I can do these things. Then we're engaged in the struggle again. So I think, just seeing this question from Michael, can you live your life with it? I think that shows a lot of insight, and kind of points out the way here. And so last question here is going to be from Persona 2, who said, "I started sleep restriction 5 days ago, mostly for early morning awakenings. I'm still waking 40 minutes earlier than my alarm, and can't get back to sleep. Is this a sign that SR is not working?" Very common type of question, and it, to me, just illustrates the problems with like the traditional CBTI type of teaching. And I summarize what I see as the problems with CBTI as implied controllability. It doesn't necessarily, like, I don't think any CBTI therapist will say, if you do these things, you can control your sleep, but it is implied. It's implied that when the CBTI person will say like, okay, if you go to bed later and you wake up early, then your sleep efficiency will increase. It just implies that you can control these things, right? And I think when it comes to things that we cannot control, like sleep, like our emotions, like our thoughts, things become tricky when we try to control them. So I want to say that when I get this type of question, my first sort of follow-up question always becomes like, how do you know you're waking up 40 minutes earlier than your alarm? How do you know? And silly question, but it just illustrates that that person probably checks the time. And I see that as an invitation to not check the time. Because when we don't know what time it is, there's less trying to control, there's less calculating, and sleep can just happen easier. And so to me, it's not a sign at all that sleep restriction is not working. It, well, for someone like yourself, but it's a sign, if anything, that there's some problems with sleep restriction. I think if anyone wakes up earlier than they would like to do, then I think it's the same invitation. It's the invitation to, when we wake up, we don't check the time. It's kind of always my number one. Don't know what time it is, and two, we don't fight reality, because if we're like, I'm awake, I shouldn't be awake, I have to do something to make myself sleep, then we're engaged in the struggle. So we accept the fact that yes, I'm awake now, and it doesn't seem like I'm going to fall asleep right now. And then number three, we do something with that wakefulness that makes it the most pleasant. And then when the attempts to sleep, etc., fade, then we find ourselves sleeping more than we would otherwise. And if we don't, that's okay too. So really, there's no struggle. So yeah, we'll conclude here. This was the first ever Insomnia open class in this format. There was a lot of questions, so I think it's meaningful to the community. And I will be back here if nothing else comes up. Then I'll be here either with myself or with a guest every Wednesday at 11 a.m. So I hope this brings a lot of is really helpful to you. And as always, if you'd like some more help on your path to sleeping well for the rest of your life, then please check out our website and see if there's some coaching options for you. But we also have this open class as well every Wednesday. So again, thanks so much for being here, and hope you have a nice rest of your day. Bye for now.